piece with Bobby Finoro, who from Sopranos, and he and we've known each other a long time. We've worked with Wynn Handman, who is our acting teacher, and he's also playing Larry in a stage reading of Closer. And those are just a couple of the projects, but there's a lot of stuff going on.
You have a
wonderfully busy woman.
You have what we call a full bill. So hold on to some of those things.
I will. Thank you.
And we're going to discuss some of them later on, and also how people, when some of these come to fruition, when and where they can see you. And
Great, definitely.
Wow. Angie does it all, and we have, the technical thing is fixed now. Everything is okay.
We no longer have technical difficulties.
In Sicilian, we say "La Sestata Domè," and I can't think of a better time to say it when our good friend Eddie Jackson is here. Ed Jackson, Dr. Jackson, a linguist and a friend of ours who's been on the Bill Russo Show numerous times. Ed, how are you this evening?
Buonasera tutti quanti, ma io sto bene.
Buonasera. E tu visto me Gennaro? Se stato dopo da me Gennaro si maladato me figlio vindo anni passato e giusto Gennaro qua.
Oh, l'ho visto, ma non ho fatto la sua conoscenza.
All right. And as you know, Eddie speaks no English, so we're going to have a little tough time here.
He's a professor of linguistics.
I wish that we could speak English like Eddie does.
Wow. You're right. I did meet him before.
Dr. Jackson.
Met you before.
Dr. Jackson, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Angie Krispic.
Hello. Pleasure to meet you, Mr. Jackson.
And Dianan Navarro, who you've met many times before.
And if you don't remember, don't worry. I'll remind you later. It was a rough night.
Grazie.
Now, Eddie, you're also recognized as a cavaliere.
Yes, that's true.
What is that exactly, and who gave you that distinction?
Cavaliere is a title that's given by the Italian government, and cavaliere is the equivalent of a knight, the English knight, as you know. But in Italy, they don't speak English; they speak Italian, so it's a cavaliere. So it comes from cavallo. Cavallo is a horse.
Horse, yes.
So cavaliere is a horseman or a knight.
No.
Okay.
Oh.
Now
that is a wonderful distinction to be given that honor, and I congratulate you again. I know you have it a while, but I congratulate you again because that is a very distinct honor. And that means that you did a lot of hard work to earn that, because it doesn't come by everyone.
No, it doesn't.
And for you to have that's really fabulous.
Yeah,
congratulations.
Thank you. You have to be nominated by a person in the organization of good standing, and that nomination is based on what one does for the Italian community. In my case, I teach the Italian language, and I've been on a number of executive boards. The organization that had given me this honor of Cavaliere in 2011 is the National Federation of Italian American Societies in Brooklyn, in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn. And I was nominated in 2010 around Christmas time. And I said, "Do you know who you're talking to?" And he says, yes, you were nominated for the honor of Cavaliere and offered by our organization. This is what we call a branch. They represent the Italian government, and they're given the authority to name or nominate Cavaliere. And also for females, they're called Dama.
Yes,
like the dame.
Yes, Dama. Yes. No, I'm glad.
That's nice.
All we have to do is clone you, Eddie, and make about 10 million like you, and we would solve many of the problems that people have in relationships and interrelationships between groups, because you made it almost like your life's work to earn this, and you paid attention to all of that, and you've been given this reward. And now, when I was a very young man, a long time ago, I had the occasion. Thank you so much.
It was recently, right?
And they're going to have these people back on the show. You can put on that. And when I was a very young man, I had the occasion to meet James Baldwin. And I'm sure that Mr. Baldwin wouldn't recall me from a sack of nickels, but he was having a conversation with the man that introduced me to him, and they were discussing an author who had come from Ireland and spent 15 years living in and studying the Harlem community.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And when he wrote the book about it, some people that were longtime residents poo-pooed him.
Yeah.
And that he was, he can't really know, he couldn't really be. Mm-hmm. And Baldwin came to his defense and said, I wish we knew 1% what this man knows, and 0.5% of how hard he's worked to find out.
Oh yeah.
And everybody else kind of had to, had to shut up after that.
Yeah.
And I'm a little embarrassed because I've forgotten the author's name. He was a man, O'Rourke or Kelly or Riley or something. I don't mean that in the most respectful way. Please, no text about Ireland. I understand you. And so now you're kind of doing like the same thing. And I think it's just terrific. I think it's absolutely terrific.
Well, once again, I always tell people I'm from the neighborhood. Okay.
Yes.
And I'm from the Bronx, New York, and I grew up in an Italian neighborhood. My roots are African American.
Arthur Avenue or Morris Avenue?
No.
Same thing.
Just outside of Arthur Avenue. Morris Avenue, well, that's a different issue in itself. Morris Park
I would
is
know
more
about
closer.
that. You can ask me about that later.
Well, again, I hate to go back so far. Don't get scared. It's not that far. And at that time, Morris Avenue in the 150s was mostly Italian people.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, definitely.
At that time, and then there was also Arthur Avenue, always, of course.
Yeah, there was a movement upward. How Arthur Avenue had gotten started was a lot of the immigrants that came over from Italy are stonemasons.
Yes.
And the Department of, let's say New York City was putting together cultural areas in all of the 5 boroughs, and they were building a zoo.
Yes.
Which
That
is
little old thing over there?
Yeah, that little old thing, the Bronx Zoo.
That's how we started.
And they needed people to chisel away at the rock and make these quarries for animals to represent a real forest kind of a situation.
Wow.
And so they had tents set up. It was just an area like anything else, and it was just the companies had set up tents. It's almost like what was done with the Chinese with the railroads.
Yes.
And they made these little cities, and also the history of the United States in finding gold. People come for the gold rush.
Yeah.
They build tents, then they build a city, and some of the cities were abandoned, but some of them.
It's always so informative when you're on the program. That's why I love when you come here.
But this is.
I love it.
This is a part of Americana, and it's a part of how things come about. They don't just pop up.
Yeah.
There are reasons for it.
Yeah.
And up on 187th Street, the individuals would come from down here on Mulberry Street, and they would come. There's some other individuals would come from 116th Street, and then they would.
That was a Sicilian
on the east
area.
side.
Yeah, a friend of mine,
which is almost like
came
Italian.
Not
quite. We'll go into that later on in the program.
A friend of mine came from that area.
Dr. Jackson, I want to give you a copy of my book because, as you know, you may not be aware, I'm an amateur historian. I've written several history books.
Oh.
And my last history book, which was the origins and history of the village of Yorkville in the city of New York, has been accepted at the New York Historical Society.
Oh, wow, that's great.
So I
Wonderful.
feel, as an untrained individual,
Amazing.
No, your training, what you have was enough to give you the insight to put together these
I want to get you
books.
a copy of that.
And I appreciate that.
Oh, wow, that sounds great.
Now, we're just going to change gears a moment now. We're going to go to our in-house psychic. And master of so many things I can't list them because it's only a 1-hour program.
Mistress.
But I used to, when Diana had a radio show on Shantani Broadcasting, and she was a colleague with Bill Russo and myself.
Yeah.
And Bill, if you want to stop and start it, you can. By the way, you can stop and start it. Just stop and start it. She at that time